bias to action is mission critical in terms of being able to take steps and basically to become successful in any part of life. And some people have trouble with that. There are hundreds and hundreds of different kinds of approaches and techniques and whatever that are about somehow building up a sufficient head of steam, a sufficient emotional charge in order to make action possible. We talk about motivation, we talk about desire, passion, all these other words. In order to make taking action and taking the next steps relatively straightforward, this notion that we have to build ourselves up and access some kind of enhanced state of adrenalized and engorged enthusiasm before you pick up the phone, or before you send an email, or before you find who a supplier is, I think is a big part of the problem. Learning to develop the bias to action is not about creating bigger and bigger and bigger states in order to do smaller and smaller and smaller things. Part of what we talk about, and it's through a number of NLP Times products, is this notion that we want to get it so that when you determine that an action is worth taking and that it's a good thing to do and it'll help you, that you don't waste any more time. Between the moment of decision and the moment of taking action, we reduce that time period, that lag. I call that lag between making the decision and the moment of action the kind of moment of mischief. It's the box of mischief, the space between. The training is to reduce the amount of arousal that's required in order for you to take action. This notion of, just JFDI, just do it. It's not some refrigerator magnet nice phrase. It's actually expressing a very important principle, is that you need to learn to take action regardless of condition, what's going on in the environment, how you're feeling at a particular moment. And I'm talking about the kind of, the ups and downs of normal moments. I'm not talking about, when you have some major situation going on that's distracting you that needs to be taken care of. Is to learn to cut through all of the fake urgent things and the false impulses, not being able to start work until your work environment is perfect, or having to have everything in a particular order, or because you don't have everything that you can't do something. There's just loads and loads and loads of BS that we've trained ourselves to. And to a certain extent that our culture allows and encourages. What that JFDI approach is about is it's about training yourself to take the next step. Even when you don't feel like it, even when you haven't had your coffee, even when fill in the blank for condition that you have put in the way, making effective action conditional upon some little thing being present or not. This bias to action, this bias to taking the next step. We talk about when you don't know something, that doesn't mean sit back and wait. When you hit the blank wall, or when you have the blank canvas in front of you, don't know means go, not stop. Don't know means put something there, means find out, means talk to somebody, and not, okay, I'll take care of it later. In that bias to action, in that bias to moving forward, regardless of what seems to be arising, you develop a strength. It's a way that translates your raw life force into momentum and into action. Without it, life can get really hard. You need to begin to practice this, making the decision to do something. And I'm talking about specific things. I'm not talking about giant plans or vague desires. I'm talking about when you decide that, all right, to build the business, this has to happen. In order for that to happen, I need to contact person X and ask about Y. Instead of going, right, okay, I'll do that at some point. Instead, you go, all right, how long is this going to take? Yeah, it's just a quick hello, how you doing message, and can we speak? That's less than a couple of minutes. Just go on and do it. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. JFDI. Without it, you set yourself up to be knocked off course. You set yourself up to be distracted when you haven't taken care of everything to get yourself into the right state or done the right kind of prep in order to make things easy. This removes the question of easy or difficult. It removes the question of, do I fancy it? And focuses in on what you say is important. On what you say is something that's worth doing, the creation of this business, this way of serving other people that makes it possible for people to get access to what you've got and for you to continue living. Yes, the big goal, the big vision has to be sufficiently articulated and connected up with other parts of life in order to make the question of motivation at the higher level, that, yeah, I really want that, no longer an issue. It's just, yeah, I want to move towards that. But then when we work it down at the task decomposition level, where we're taking apart projects and bringing them down into the steps that have to be done, that once we've got these things in place, we want to make it as easy as possible to take the next step, to take the next physical action. We're going to be talking a bit more about this bias to action, because it is mission critical to you being able to build in exactly the way you want to build. Look, here's a really simple and straightforward way that you can start to practice. One of the most typical things, the situations that people come up with, is that when they think, what, I got to do something, but I don't know what to do, or I'm not sure how to proceed, that white page, that white canvas, that white screen that's in front of them, they don't have a sufficient event trigger for the brain to go, I have to do something. And that can be trained out. Basically, that don't know means stop. There's a lot of contributing factors to it, but for our purposes here, what we want to do is to make that blank slate, that don't know, that white screen, the sign for asking a better question. So you hit don't know. You have to take a step, but you don't know what to do. You haven't figured out exactly how things are going to be or going to look or whatever. Go into not know and then say, all right, well, who would know? Who would have an idea? Where might I get a clue about what's possible? So you change from the reaction of stop, and instead just train in the question. Yeah, well, who would know? I don't know, but who would? I don't know at the moment, but who might have an idea? And then you take it from there. So all we're doing is we're just putting in that little question that redirects us towards taking action. It may or may not resolve the problem immediately, but what it does is it puts us back into taking steps, moving forward, taking ground.